Happy Wife, Happy Life. We're your hosts. I'm Kendahl, Landreth.
And I'm Jordan Myrick.
And we are two incredibly unqualified,
but deeply in love comedians who are here to help you with all things relationship. And on today's episode, we're talking first dates with Catherine McCafferty.
Yay.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm
you.
super jazzed to be here.
Oh
We
my
love
God.
ya. We love your show, Pretty Gay. For anyone tuning in that's not already watching your show, I think most of our listeners are because they've all asked for you to come on this podcast. But for those who maybe don't know, will you just give us a little snippet of what your show is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I go on mock dates with queer comedians or like content creators. People hate to be called that.
Sure.
But I don't know what to call people if they're not comedians because not everybody is.
Right. Well, it's
Some
funny
people
because
are actually actors.
Yeah.
Some people are like what I decided to move to Hollywood to be.
Uh-huh.
Like legitimate serious actors are on the show.
It's funny because it's like it went from like, oh, you can't say influencer. They were like, don't say influencer, say content creator. And now they're like, don't say content creator.
Yeah.
And now they just want to say comedian, which I'm like, but you're not
everybody. Not everybody is.
Yes.
You guys are, and then I have a whole list of people who aren't.
Don't set yourself up for failure like that. Don't
Exactly.
be like, I'm a comedian if you in fact are not a comedian. And really, like anything else, the only thing being a comedian takes is practice and like actually working on the thing. There's really almost no barrier to entry. So it's not like an elitist thing of being like, oh, well, this person's a comedian and this person's not or whatever.
No.
It's just like sometimes people will be like, well, I'm a comedian, and then
They don't do comedy.
They don't do comedy, and then you try to do a
comedy.
little comedy with them on a comedy podcast, and they're like, you're being a bitch. And you're like, what?
This was supposed to be funny, and now I feel like a bully.
Yeah.
But okay, so what's my show? I go on like mock dates with queer comedians or actors or just like people who are who have moved to Hollywood to do something.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're a chef, I want you on the show. Truly, I've been trying to date Kristen. What's her
Kish
last?
from Top Chef,
for
yeah.
so long.
I know.
So
Good
have we, not for the show, just
Yeah, just in
personally.
general, right?
Yeah.
We play like fun, like little improv games, and they're like 30 to 60-minute episodes, and they're only on Patreon. So that's how you could watch me date a bunch of people.
Yeah.
such a fun show.
So fun. We've both been on the show. It's also made by Sam Reich, who owns Dropout, who is a friend and has been on this podcast with his wonderful wife, Elaine, who also works on the show.
Yes.
They do such a great job. It's so wonderful. You should all go subscribe to the Patreon right now.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Do you love first dates? Is that what made you start the show?
So, no, I wouldn't say that I love first dates, but I don't understand the context of a first date. And like it gives you like something to talk about because we're playing these like little improv games and we're really like writing the show. People will be like, you write the jokes? And it's like, yeah, the jokes are written. But also I haven't been on, or when we created the show at least, I was getting out of an engagement. And that was my first queer relationship.
Okay.
So I hadn't been on a lot of dates, and I truly was like information mining. I was like, I'm going to invite these hot people on my show and I'm going to be like, and how do you date?
I love that.
Yeah.
Who's been like the guest, and no pressure to say yes, but who's been the guest that you're like, this is how we do a first date? Like,
Yeah, and let's take us off the table just to be safe, you know? Because I know immediately you were like, Jordan and Kendahl.
Yeah, obviously.
But I don't want to hurt the other guests' feelings like that, so let's take us off the table.
Yeah, you guys off the table. I'm trying to think. Okay, I had ER Fightmaster on.
Charming.
And
We've had ER
so
as well.
Charming.
Very
and
charming.
they are like, they just know exactly how to like play with you, make you blush, but then also like make it not too much. Like I had Grant O'Brien on the podcast, which
Grant
is
O'Brien will just stick a finger right up you. Metaphorically or physically. We love him. We've had him on this podcast, but he's a very forward man.
Very forward, and he's the only man that we've ever had on because this is mean because I almost was like, technically I'm bisexual, but I never know how I identify, but we were like, what if we had a bi guy on the show? And obviously Grant is part of the Dropout universe, and he's very sexual.
Yeah.
And after we shot his episode, Sam took me aside and was like, hey, so that was great. Just if a guest is really like going for it, play with them as opposed to physically backing away from them.
Sure.
And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, anything that Grant said, you were physically trying to get away from him.
That is, he was like, it was a very upset, you seemed very scared. That is so funny. Well, I was gonna say after I recorded with you, I think I said to you, I was like, I was more nervous than I thought because something that's so special about your show, it like really does feel like a first date.
Yeah.
Like it really does. Like when I sat down, I was like, okay, we're going to do it. Interview, whatever. And then I was like, wait, I'm so nervous.
We are sort of like the episodes that go the best are people who are like, okay, wait, this does sort of feel like a date where it's like there is a flirtatious nature to it. Now, I will say a lot of the guests are like married or in like long-term relationships. And, but they also know how to like play with you.
And sometimes that makes someone more flirty because they're like, you can't take me home. So let's just have some fun.
Like,
100%.
it is very fun. And I do get like moves because I'll be like, oh, you do that? Okay, maybe I'll try to do that.
I love that. I do think what you said is really smart, Kendahl, is that you're kind of like,
thank you.
I can't take you home, so I'm going to lean into it even more. I was just saying this the other day, but I feel like someone was like, oh, do you feel like you get flirted with a lot? And I was like, I think the people that flirt with me the most are straight men, not actually trying to have sex with me.
Okay.
But I think they just know, like, I'm not attracted to them.
Yes.
And so they are able to be as free as possible. And I feel like a lot of straight men are so locked up both with like women, but also like with their
themselves.
Male friends, with themselves, with whatever. So I'm like, oh, when you meet like a gender nonconforming lesbian who's like married and like very happy, and you can just kind of like be like your fun, flirty, cute self.
Yes.
I find that straight men like to do that with me a lot, which is very interesting to me.
That is very funny. But yeah, I do think that on the show, like people who are taken are more like, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to try to pick you up physically. I'm physically going to put you on my body.
Well, also because they're not allowed. You've given them the one chance to be like, I'm allowed to go. I haven't flirted in 15 years.
Yeah.
Let me get it all out now.
Yeah, you've made yourself everyone's hall pass. Yeah, basically.
Oh my God. Okay, and that's pretty
that
fun.
Now you go on so many first dates.
Yeah.
We have made a list of things in a game that we're calling second date or it's too late.
Oh.
Meaning second date, you like it or you don't mind it when people do it, you'd go on a second date. It's too late, meaning by the time that they do this thing, you're done. You're out.
Oh, got
you
it.
You cannot continue going on. You are fully unattracted.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. I have gone on like 8-hour-long first dates that anyone else would have ended. But I'm like, let's keep seeing where this is going to go because maybe they'll redeem themselves. So I'm big into giving a lot of chances.
I'm the same way, and I do what I do on a date sometimes what I do when I'm reading a book, where, you know, when you're like reading a book and the character, they explain their outfit and it's the ugliest thing you've ever heard. And then you're like, I'm actually just going to wipe that from my brain.
Yeah.
I used to do that a lot on dates where someone would say a joke that was just so cringy. Or
and you're like, and that's gone.
And it's gone. Goodbye. Yeah. Never heard it. Didn't happen. And that's how we ended up dating.
Yeah. Kendall and I have not listened to each other for the last 5 years, and we are so blissfully happy.
So cute. And that's sort of the secret.
Yeah. Exactly right.
That's the book The Secret is about. Okay. They insist on paying.
Oh, I'll go on a second date. What were my two options?
Second date or it's too late.
Second date. I need to know how they're insisting.
Gun to your head.
Well, because like some people do it in such a way where I'm like, now I feel like you've peed on me. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. But I want you to give the audience examples of like what's like, okay, you and I are at dinner. Ha ha ha. Oh my God, the check just came.
And then like I'm pulling out my wallet. Yeah. And then if the other person is like, no, I've got it. Then I'm like, okay, great. Or if they're like, I insist, still totally fine. Okay. But if I'm like putting down my card and they're like, absolutely not, I always pay, I'm like,
ew, yeah. Don't remind me that you've ever been on a date other than this one.
Well, if you're like, I'm always like, then that you're like asserting yourself in like a dominant way where I'm like, okay, you have now set a power dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I don't want you to set, like, that feels icky to me.
Yeah.
I love that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. 10 minutes past the time you were supposed to meet is when they show up.
That's fine. I'm sorry. I'm always late, and that's fine. And I'm the person who's 10 minutes late. I have once been.
Do you text?
Oh, I always tell the person.
Sure. Okay.
And I try to tell them at least like an hour beforehand. I don't know where they're coming from, but I'll let them know like, hey, I'm very sorry. I'm probably going to be late. I know that this is an hour ahead of time. I don't know how late, but let's just say 10 minutes. And then like once I actually have an ETA, I'll tell them what it is.
Yeah.
I have unfortunately been like 20 minutes late to a date.
why are you late like that? Why are you able to be like,
Totally.
in 1 hour, I will be some level of late?
Yeah, so so I don't understand how long things take, number one. And I'm constantly thinking that it only takes me 20 minutes to get ready.
Yeah.
So I will say that I've always overscheduled myself. So I'm doing something, I'll be like, oh, I can just edit this really quickly. I can edit this clip.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. And then I'm editing and I'm like, okay, well, I have to jump in the shower in like 5 minutes because I have to be there in 15 minutes. That's not how that works.
Okay.
You know what? Jordan always does that with movies specifically. You're not late to anything, but all the time, even today, Jordan was like, well, after recording, and I have something at like 5, why don't we go see a movie? I was like, going to see a movie, and you do this all the time, going to see a movie takes like 8 hours. What do you talking about?
It is somewhere in between 8 hours and 2 hours.
It's so long.
But it
and
does
you always
take
try to just cram
longer.
in, we'll just head over and see a movie.
Yeah.
Well, I have AMC A-list, so...
You are close to the movie theater, so I do understand the impulse. However, it does take longer than 2 hours. You always think it's going to take 2 hours, but
No,
it takes longer.
it takes a really
And
long
that's
time.
true. And I'm working on it. I'm
And
always
you have
working on
you
myself.
have to do trailers. There's like an hour of trailers
Yes.
and everything.
An hour of trailers.
There is.
There are.
That's
there,
not a joke, Catherine.
There are a lot of
Not
trailers.
an hour.
There's a lot of
Kendall
trailers.
has time blindness.
But I have that too. But I'll say that I'm always on time for things like a podcast, or maybe it's because dates, like, also I get nervous. Like, I get way more nervous about a date than like a show or a podcast or like a meeting. You know, I'm on time for those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense to me. They bring you flowers.
No,
Second date or it's too late?
too late.
Really?
Don't do that.
You don't show up flowers.
You don't know me at all.
They're
that
so
makes
hot
me so
and nice.
upset. No. Okay. I guess we can kiss.
Wait, what do you mean?
Okay.
I immediately want to be like, I want to not have the wrong reaction to the flowers, so I think I would
Oh.
just kiss them.
Okay. Why no to the flowers, though?
I don't. Well, first of all, cut flowers are really bad for the environment.
Sure.
So you don't like flowers in general?
No.
Great.
They usually give me a headache. So I like almost instantly get a headache. Wow. Depending on what the I can do roses and I can do like sunflowers. Those don't give me a headache, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't find it romantic. I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer in that way, where I'm only thinking about like how much water it took to transport these freshly cut flowers to wherever you bought them.
What if they picked the flowers themselves?
Yeah, like
from their own garden?
from their garden. Okay, so that's like fun. That's romantic. It's not me. So like once they get to know me, they'll probably never do that again. But I'm not like instantly upset.
Okay. So you don't feel like it's too like, okay, you're like trying to commit to me with these flowers. It's too much?
No, oh yeah, no. I guess that wasn't my reaction.
Okay,
it was
okay,
just
okay.
like I simply don't like flowers.
Got it. Okay, great.
I understand that.
Yeah, I was on this date with this person and they were being very nice and trying to be really cute. The date, in my opinion, like we were just missing each other, but I was going to give them a ride home because they needed one. Yeah. and so we were walking to my car and they stopped and they picked a flower from somebody else's garden and gave it to me. And the amount of rage that I had in my body was really tough.
That's rough.
I will say that my reaction was to kiss them because I was so angry.
So, okay,
Now, we
there's a
circled back around
lot
to me
there
being
with
confused
that.
because I'm on the same page as you.
I know.
But that's scary.
Well, I was just like, I didn't know what to do because I was like, I'm having such a big reaction to how awfully upset I am about this. So I'm
Quick
just going
kiss?
to put my face on your face.
Quick kiss or make out?
I ended up making out because it wasn't like, you know, like
Yeah.
you have to ask. You can't just like attack somebody,
Okay.
in my opinion. So it was like flower. And then I was like, we should kiss, question mark after that. And then they were like, oh my God. And then it was like a make out that I tried to stop. Because
That's so weird.
I know I
Catherine.
was sending all the mixed signals.
I would have been so confused.
Yeah.
Do you, if you like someone on a date, are you going to go in for a kiss?
That's I usually don't initiate if I like somebody.
Okay.
Okay.
So if someone's on a date with you and you kiss them, bad
Bad news.
It's not going good.
I'm more timid. I'm a little bit more scared.
Okay.
Yeah.
You seem scared in both scenarios, but you get more scared. You react with your fear in a different way.
Yeah, I react with, apparently. I'm learning something in real time, too, about how I'm problematic.
And that's why we brought you here. It's confusing to me because, listen, consent is very important and we all know that. But if you were to be like, they picked me a flower, handed it to me, and then I just leaned in to kiss them because I got so caught off guard and didn't know what to do, I would be like, okay, still seems wild to me, but it's just like an impulse. Okay. For them to pick a flower and then for you to look at them and say,
we should make out.
Should we kiss?
Yeah.
And then do it feels really bizarre.
It
no
is.
Judgment and
no, it is bizarre
from a scientific standpoint, not like a moral standpoint.
So if I'm going back in my head, it was me sort of doing like a this and then going, we should kiss, question mark.
Yeah.
But you're so close to their face because I don't know how. Because I actually I don't know how to date.
No,
which is why I have this show.
Okay. All right.
I'm fascinated because I will say I've been on a couple really there's one date I went on years and years and years ago, and I remember being like, and I think usually I'm always operating from this person hates me and you have to really convince me otherwise. So I was convinced I was like, I'm killing this.
Yeah.
Very confusing for me. I'm killing this. They are like, let's make out. We make out for an hour at a bar. And I was like, oh my God, they're obsessed with me.
Yeah.
We make out for an hour. And then I was like, they were like, I live across the street. And I was like, oh, great. Let's go across the street.
Yeah.
And then they were like, no. And then they were like, let me call this Uber. And they called me an Uber. And I was kind of drunk at this point. And they were also kind of, not drunk, but we'd had a couple drinks.
Yeah, tipsy.
And then they were like, okay, get in the Uber. And I remember being like, did I do something what did I do?
Bizarre.
What did I do? I misread. I've never felt like I misread so much. And then, but they still follow me on social media. I assume that was the thing with dating sites. It's sometimes you're like, wait, I don't understand it. It's like they got back with their ex that's why they were on a dating app. But I remember looking back at that night and being like, was I just misreading every single moment?
No, I think they probably
makes me
scared
think maybe
themselves by inviting you over. I think there was probably another girl.
At her house.
Not at her house.
Or
her
maybe
wife.
She'd never had sex with a woman before. I think that also, I could see that happening. Someone being like, let's bone. And then all of a sudden being like, I need to go home and watch a video. I've never done that.
Absolutely.
Which you don't need to do. You'll figure it out.
You will figure it out.
I could see myself, a younger version of myself, just becoming panicked.
Absolutely. I panicked when I went over to my first, the first person that I had ever had a queer relationship with. We met, we were making out. They were like, do you want to come back to my place? I was like, yeah. And then in my head, I'm freaking out. Also, my contacts are so dry at this point. And so we are kissing even more. We're now in their bed. And I was like, hey, so my contacts are really dry. I have to go. And they were like, oh, okay. And then they said something that is the most confident thing that made me go you're so hot, we should definitely get engaged. They were like, so I guess find my number.
Okay.
And I did.
And you did.
And I did. I said checkmate because I think they were like, oh, she's never been with a girl or a person who has my anatomy. So she's freaking out right now.
Wow, the confidence to even think that, because I would have immediately assumed I've made them deeply upset by something I did.
No. I was trying to be like, I really liked this. I really I was really trying to not just totally freak out.
Yes.
But I was very much my contacts are dry.
Yes. I would say a similar situation where I had hooked up with women before, but in college it was kind of, I had always hooked up with people kind of in passing. Sure. I think a lot of people too were I was I'm bisexual, and they were like, well, I'm straight or whatever. And then they would be like, but you and I should kiss. And I'd be like, I'm confused. But okay,
that is confusing.
Sure. Someone that I went to college with at a birthday party I had was like, come into this room with me. We're going to hook up. And we started to hook up, and I became paralyzed with fear.
Yeah.
Despite, once again, like I had been with people before, but for some reason I was just like so scared. And then I was like, what if she has an STD? I haven't asked her if she's been tested. I haven't asked her if she's been tested, which is like, everyone should get tested.
Yes.
And everyone should be really safe.
Yeah.
I will say,
it's going to be a lot harder for you to contract something from somebody who has a vagina.
Is a little different.
It's a little different.
And once again, everyone should get tested. Anyone can get anything from anyone.
Yes.
But it's clear in that moment, I don't think I was...
That wasn't what you were really
I had hooked up with guys that I'd like met on the subway. Like I wasn't like
Absolutely. It wasn't
worried about that specifically.
Yeah.
It was just like I became so paralyzed in my brain, and I was like,
it's STD.
I was like, she probably has an STD, and then I'm gonna get it, and then I'm gonna spread it to other people, and like not even realize it, and then we're just gonna like all have an STD. Like just really got crazy. But then I went home with my roommate, and my roommate was like, you should have just done it, and she was a very fun straight girl who was always encouraging me, which was so nice. Thank you, Esther. I regretted it. And after the fact, like texted, I was like, hey, sorry, I had to go home. I was just like feeling crazy, but I would like love to maybe hang out and kind of stir things up again, or like some kind of like really bizarre message trying to be sexy. And I never heard back from her. And then I would just see her around and it would be like,
hard.
But you know what? Either way is embarrassing because I will say one moment that I look back on to this day and feel embarrassment about is when I lost my virginity. I don't know why. I had, first of all, never kissed anyone else.
Yeah.
Never fooled around with any guy ever. I'd never done anything. And I also was very unaware of sexual things in general. Like I had never seen porn. I had never... Totally. I'd read things on Tumblr about Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone when they were together. Fun. And I'd read and those so
which is so funny because like what did you read about them being together?
Fan fiction, Jordan.
I also didn't get that.
I read news articles in general.
TMZ has been like they were spotted together at El Pazino.
I thought you were sort of like studying pictures of them kissing.
No.
Okay.
I mean that too. Like I was reading obsessed with Emma Stone.
Fiction.
I was reading fan fiction. Like I was all in it. I still like didn't really understand how to masturbate. Like I didn't know. Like I remember seeing in a movie like at 18, someone like a girl masturbate and being like, I have not been doing that. I've been doing something else. Yeah. So that's the level of knowledge I'm coming in with. I remember when I lost my virginity. I don't know why. More confident than I've ever been.
Oh, wow.
I came and I said, I'll take the lead. And I told her, I was like, I'm a virgin. And she was like, oh, yeah, no, I can tell you're a virgin. And she'd be like, well, let me go first. I can show you. And I was like, no. I'll go first.
Yeah.
I was kind of
putting on a cowboy hat. Is what it feels like.
I was making stuff up. I remember because I bragged about this to my roommates after, which is crazy. I wore long Argyle socks the whole time. And not sexy ones. Like these were from TJ Maxx from when I was in high school.
It's hard. That's hard to be sexy.
I was like, no, let me do everything first. Like I kind of get how this works. And it just like the things that I was trying out were just not things people do when you have sex. Like they just were absolutely not. And we dated for a little bit. It couldn't have been that bad. Or I guess I'm just really, really pretty.
Yeah.
But I remember later her being like, yeah, I told my friends after we had sex for the first time, I was like, super weird. She had no idea what she was doing.
Idea, but
she just kept kind of poking things. I mean, like, how do you like that?
That's kind of nice, though, right? Kind of free.
Very free.
And I think it's very endearing. You're extremely endearing in general. So much charm. So I think that, you know.
That added to it.
I think that added to it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Someone texts you an hour before the date to say they're excited about the date. Yeah, that is in 1 hour.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cute.
Okay, great. They bring you a gift.
Oh my God, what's the gift? Okay, wait. Okay.
Because on your show, you have people bring you a gift.
Yeah. I've brought people a gift on a first date, but I've known the person in the sense where I was like, this isn't going to be weird. Does that make sense? Like, not a total stranger. And also, I sort of knew, like, some people, they bring little gifts.
Yeah.
Okay, so
some people are little gift people.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to know, let's say you're going on a date with someone, you don't really know them. You match on an app, you don't really know them, or it's a blind date, someone else set up.
If they give me a gift, that's fine.
What's an appropriate gift? What's an inappropriate gift? Barring like the obvious. But what's something where you would be like wild? And what's something you'd be like, cool.
Okay, something that I know like costs a lot of money would be like, stop doing that. What is that?
Coach bag.
Yeah, I'm like, what have we done here?
Okay.
because now I feel like obligated to pay you back in some way.
Yeah.
With my body.
Yeah. Anal on the first date.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just spreading cheeks.
Yeah.
But I think like sometimes I have brought like a tiny gift that I put in my fanny pack where I'm like, I thought of them. I thought they might like this. It's like a little tchotchke. It's like a little clip. It's like something like that.
But you can also give it to a friend.
Where I could give it to a friend, or I could give it to this date if I'm feeling like nervous. So I feel like if they brought me a little tchotchke, I would be like, I recognize that. Like, I recognize that as something that I would do.
One time I brought stamps on a first date because it was when we were supposed to be buying stamps. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. I said for
fun.
USPS.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They were not interested in a second date, but I don't know if that was because of stamps. So I was asking. I was curious.
Yeah. Stamps would be fun because that's quirky, and then I know about your personality. I know that you like keep up on the news and you support the USPS. I know that somebody.
Why are you shaking your head?
I know that somebody
I do keep up with the news.
told
I don't know
you
if
to
that'd
buy
be-
stamps.
I don't know if that'd be the number one thing I'd say about you is that you keep up with the news.
Well, I would know that you at least watch the internet enough to know to buy stamps.
Yeah.
And that's
yes,
true.
yes.
Yeah. And that is true about Kendahl.
You find out this is like a year after all of that happened.
Yeah.
It's like
This was 6
so
months
late.
ago.
Yeah, this is 6 months ago. I was like, we need to be buying stamps.
Yeah. Okay, and last but not least for this, kiss at the end of the date. Good or bad?
Yeah, that's good. It also depends on how you present that, because I've gone on like dates that have actually gone pretty poorly, and then the person goes like, "Can I kiss you?" And I'm like, "No, were you on this date?"
But
they
sometimes
asked,
it's
and
all
that's
you
great.
can get from it, which sounds
Absolutely.
bad. But I will say, which for me, we were talking about this the other day. On a first date, if we don't kiss, I assume you were like horrified by me. Like I'm like, if you don't want to make out for 2 hours after the date, it's done for.
I used to definitely think that, but then I started seeing somebody who absolutely liked me a lot, and we went on multiple dates that were hours and hours and hours long, and I was like, this girl just wants to be my friend, because we were like giggling, laughing, we weren't touching at all, and I was like, okay, so friend vibes, but somehow like flirty friends, because in my head I was like, I could switch to friends. I want to kiss this girl, but like I'm not getting any signals. This must be going poorly. But then later we did make out, and I was like, so what were those other dates about? And she was like, I was just nervous.
Yeah.
I think it's hard. I think you got to find that sweet spot, because I don't think you have to kiss on the first date, especially depending on like how long the date is. And sometimes it's like, I don't know, for me, sometimes I would just do like a litmus test a little bit. It's like, oh, hey, we're both going to be in Midtown at 4 p.m. today. Like, let's just grab a coffee and see if we even vibe at all. You know, I think it like depends on like what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with not kissing on the first date. That being said, I went on multiple dates with a very, very nice woman who I enjoyed my time with her. I don't think we were realistically compatible.
Yeah.
But we had a nice time, and I thoroughly enjoyed spending time with her. And we went on maybe 5 or 6 dates.
No kissing?
No kissing.
Okay, that's
dates.
too many dates.
Well, what I will
Unless
say
you
is,
tell me I move super slow and I'm not really into physical stuff. Then I'm like, okay.
I think the thing was, first of all, it was at the very start of the pandemic. So I think like the first date, it was like we were sitting far apart from each other on like a picnic blanket in a park or whatever. So I think there was like some barriers, but I think because that stuff didn't get introduced early enough, it then became so like, who's going to do it? Are we not? I'll do it. You'll do it. Like, I think it just
if
felt...
there's too much time, it is hard. With that girl that I was talking about, I just via text was like, are we flirting? And her response was, yeah, but not in a serious way. And then,
wow, what a confusing response.
I know. And I there were so many SOS calls to like my friends about this, because I was like, what does this mean? And somebody was like, I think it just means that like she's nervous. Like, so she's sort of testing the waters where like, you're like, is this flirting? She's like, yeah, if you want it to be. Mm-hmm. And so then I established via text, after she said that, I made a joke, obviously. About how I already bought her an engagement ring. And then we tee-hee-heed. Yeah, has a good sense of humor. And so then I was like, okay, well, if you, like, okay, I think we should make out then next week. And she was like, okay.
Okay, cool.
I think that's smart. I think that's such a good way to go about it. But I will say one of my biggest dating pet peeves is when someone's acting kind of like, whoa, slow down.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
She wasn't like that. She was like, yeah, we should make out.
Yeah.
My dream is to be mysterious in the way that this person was being, because
Absolutely. I'm not mysterious
date,
at all.
Never. I've literally been.
I have no
after our first
mystery.
date, I think I said on the date, I was like, I just want to check in, because I'm really scared you aren't having fun, but I assume you are. Like, you like me because I like you a lot.
Yeah.
And then like the next week, I was like, just want to check in where we're at with this.
Yeah.
So not mysterious, so cool. But
I'm constantly checking in.
I love to check in. And then I read
good.
these romance novels and I'm like, I should have done that. I should have been more like, I don't know. Like
Like
we'll see.
aloof. Yeah. People are constantly telling me how they're like, oh yeah, I don't know, maybe we'll see each other again. And I'm like, what do you mean?
They're lying. I think they're trying to seem cool, or they either are trying to seem cool or they don't actually like the person.
Right.
Because I'm like, in what world? Well, I don't know.
Or they have so much internal panic, which is what I'm learning from this discussion.
Right.
Which I think I used to not believe. Like I would
Yeah.
just, which, you know, I've had to therapize with my therapist.
Yeah, right.
It's like, I remember dating this person for a while where they just kept panicking and I like didn't really believe it. Like they'd be like, sorry, I just freaked. And I was like, there's no way, because from my perspective, I would do anything. I would quit my job. We've been on 2 dates. I would quit my job if you were like, come hang out with me.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, there's no way you're freaking out enough that you don't want to hang out with me and then you like me. But I think as I've gotten older, I've been like, oh, that
it's
really
true.
does happen.
It
like
does
these
happen.
people just freak. They freak and they run away.
And then I think there's a very, very small population of people. And if you're like, oh, that's me, it's probably not you. I'll tell you that much.
Uh-oh, there we go.
I think there's a very small population of people that are truly aloof. And I would say that those people don't actually exist, but my mother is extremely aloof.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm like, okay, I have to be honest with, like, my mom is aloof with me. She's aloof with my dad. And my parents, like, love each other, have been together forever, are very happy. Like, our bros do everything together. Like, my mom is kind of like a naturally aloof person.
Yeah.
But I think most people are lying.
Yeah, I think most people are
trying to be like,
lying.
I'm chill, and they're not.
Yeah.
You know?
Everyone that I've ever met who's chill is actually the most batshit person I've ever,
Yeah.
ever met.
Absolutely.
I'm like, you stalked me for 6 months. What do you mean you're chill?
yeah.
Somehow you
My
broke into
CTV
my
footage says
bank account.
differently, but okay.
Yes. 100%. Okay, let's get into some audience questions that they wrote in for you all about first dates. This person wants to know, do you think it's worth it to go on a ton of first dates using the apps, or should I put more effort into connecting with people in shared spaces? I've been single for a few years and I'm not a huge fan of online dating, but feel like it's sometimes the only way to connect with clear intentions.
Okay. Well, I would say yes and no, because it depends on where you live. It just depends on where this person lives, because there are a lot of like sapphic dating events out here. A lot is like a generous word, but
there's
enough.
some. You could fill your schedule once a month. You could go do something.
Absolutely. You could do something even twice a month.
Yeah.
And those are specific to dating. Whereas I do understand going to a shared space and then being like, I don't know, like, who is looking right now. And that is hard. And but I've never really been on the apps in like a dedicated manner, and the people that I've heard who have been aren't having a good time. So I think in person is the way to go.
Yeah.
And like being a little, and if this person is confident at all, then like you have the upper hand in every situation.
Yeah.
Because just like go to an event, ask to buy a bunch of people a drink. Like literally it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And once you get over the initial hump of like, oh no, I've been rejected, you really haven't.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think that is better.
Are you someone that would go up to someone at a bar and like flirt with them?
Well, okay, I say yes, like I just did, but but and this is why my friends are like, you son of a bitch. Because what I do is I sort of create a situation where a person has to talk to me. Yeah. Where
you put on an apron. You're like, I'm
training. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I bump into them and bunch.
Like, you stole my wallet.
Yeah, so just violence. But sure. I'm like always in somebody, if I think somebody's cute and I see them looking at me at all, the rest of the night I'm always in their eyesight, and that makes them think that they should talk to me.
Yeah.
Wow. And it usually works.
Smart.
But that's a little creepy.
No, that's
I
very
think it's smart. I think you have to be strategic in situations
You do. You
like
have to be
this.
strategic.
Yeah.
And and the bathroom is, if it's at like a sapphic event, the bathroom is a great place to meet somebody.
Yeah.
Wear something that's like cute or like super fashion forward. You're going to get
starter.
a few people. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. That are like, oh my God, I love whatever you're doing here. And you're like, thank you so much. Actually, my friends just left. Can I buy you a drink?
wow.
I've done that before.
I'm a huge proponent of the conversation starter outfit piece
Yeah.
in every scenario. I wear them to business interviews or generals or like anything.
Yeah,
Because I
absolutely.
think it's such a good, easy way to like bridge the gap of talking to a stranger.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, a little bit to change the subject or to at least go back.
Yeah.
I do also, though, have to be a proponent of dating apps.
Okay,
Because
great.
I must admit that when I was on the dating apps,
Yeah.
I did enjoy sometimes talking to people and certain people that I met.
Yeah.
I went on some really nice dates with
Okay.
some people where I had a really nice time.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed some of the conversations I had. I also talked to weirdos and went
Yeah.
on strange dates, but you will also experience that in
That
real life
you do
too.
that in real life, yeah.
And some of the couples we know that are like the best,
Met on-
happiest couples met on dating apps. So
So-
I think it's hard. I think, you want, I
Yeah.
think this person wants a clear cut answer to their
And there's
question.
not one.
And there's not. I think, like Catherine said, it's a numbers game.
It is a
I
numbers
think you got to
game,
be
so you
doing
have
the
to do
apps,
both.
and I think you got to be going in person.
And you have to go on those dates because
Yep.
what my biggest concern with the apps is that people are chatting,
Yes.
and then they're not going on a date.
Yes.
I say after the first two things you say, set up coffee.
Yeah.
Because like we're getting to know each other but we've never actually seen each other. And that's too wild and weird.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could even start the conversation by like, you like them, and with the like, you send a little message, or like once they like
Yeah.
you back, the first message is just like, you're so cute. I would love to take you out for
yeah.
a drink.
Oh my God, amazing. Yes.
And confidence is just fake it till you make it, honestly.
It is.
I agree. Yeah, because I think what is nice about a dating app is you have everyone there who's like, not everyone, but
Some
you
people
can
are
get
on there because
which
they're
is
like
why I was
not
on
wanting
there.
to date.
Exactly. And even like it would always be, okay, I just went through a breakup, I'm sobbing in my
Yeah.
room. The first thing I do is download a dating app.
That's literally,
it's so
I've had
bad.
exes do that. And then my friend was like, hey, like literally my friend was like, I did not even know you guys broke up. I saw them on this dating app. And I was like, and that's interesting because I also didn't really know that we broke up.
Okay,
But that's how you know their heart's
rough.
broken. If they were just like fine, like if they were like going,
No,
you know,
absolutely. It was very much like we had a conversation and then there was like another conversation where I was like, I thought we were like sort of getting back together, but we're not.
man. Yeah, but then I've heard some people say then, which this feels so like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But like if you pay for the premium dating app,
Yeah.
you suddenly now are like, you're with an echelon of people who are probably a little older,
Who are
like,
paying money
I
like
wanna
that.
do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that's why a lot of older people use like a Match.com or an
Yeah.
eHarmony, because it's like you can't be 60 years old and
Well,
on
isn't like
Hinge.
Raya like becoming that or like
because
isn't
people are
it-
saying
Probably.
but people are
it costs
saying
money.
it does.
Yeah, to be a part of Raya costs money. I was on Raya for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months because I was single and then I didn't want to keep paying. And I was like, I and this is a brag. I'm like, I meet people on Instagram.
No,
Sure,
but
sure,
truly,
sure.
but I also think Raya has become so weird because I've heard that. Well, some people I know have met on Raya. I'm like, well, that's crazy because I thought Raya was for like very famous, like for
Celebrities.
celebrities.
It
That's
used to
With
be.
my problem
Makes
with
sense
it.
to
My
me.
cousin,
It
who
used to
I
be.
love, my cousin is so hot and cool and fun and perfect. They're in a relationship now, so I don't need to sell them this hard. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I think just like merit-wise, the people on Raya would be lucky to have my cousin,
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
clear. But that being said, I thought Raya was just for famous people, and my cousin is like not in the entertainment industry. So I was like, and my cousin was like, yeah, I know it's like so weird and stupid and made up, but I'm like, what? Like I thought Raya was,
It was
just for
originally.
people who were on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette
But
to
that
meet
makes
each
sense
other
to me,
in real
'cause
life.
It was.
It is
It
hard
was
to date.
originally like for I think people who are like more famous, and
Yeah.
then I think they just like ran out of people.
I heard that that's how David Harbour got caught cheating on Lily Allen.
Wait, David Harbour cheated on
Oh,
Lily
boy.
Allen?
Yeah, he cheated
And
on
they let
Lily
us
Allen,
release
and
it on
now
this
they're
podcast.
and this is a Happy with Happily exclusive.
They
It's
just
something
told us.
I heard on TikTok that might not fully be accurate. I do know I saw a million things.
I
that
was
he
in an
cheated on
acting
her.
class with him.
With him. Was he
yeah.
good or was he rude? Was he nice? What's going on?
He was just sitting in the back.
Oh,
Yeah, so he didn't like perform. I was
He
just
didn't do a scene. He said, "I won't."
He
be."
was taking the class.
It's unclear because I was sitting, it's like one of those classes that like you can drop in on and it's like a, like if you're not in on the session but you're just like in New York or whatever, you can just like sort of pop in. And so I was doing a pop in. So
I see. Well, I heard, and keep in mind legally you can't sue me if I say I heard that they caught him cheating on her because he was on Raya, like actively trying to meet people. But I do know he cheated on her. She came out and made a statement being like, I'm heartbroken. I have like no clue. I never thought this would happen.
Oh my God. Ew.
I know.
I hate that. I've had though people where they're like, hey, I saw your part. Not to me. Well, it did happen that one time, but like where people are like, hey, I saw so-and-so's partner like on Hinge or whatever, like what's going on? And then I've had to be like, hey, is your marriage open? Like, do I have to break something to you? Do you know what I mean? Because we really never know what's happening.
Is because everybody is in an open
People
relationship.
are open,
Would
right?
you ever
and
do
so
that?
then I'm like, be in an open relationship?
Yeah,
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I have like in the past.
Nice.
And as long as the parameters are like I've fully dated somebody who's like poly or whatever, and I'm just like, I'm a rules girl.
Yeah.
So if you tell me what the rules are, I abide by those rules.
Yeah.
Like I was like seeing this one girl and she was like, I'm open, and then sometimes she would say she was poly and I was like, hey, so we need to define this.
Yeah.
And then she was sort of unable to define it, which was tough. And so I started taking her up on it, and I was going on these dates and telling her about them and being like, these are the rules that I think are appropriate, and I'll share this, and this with you. And then she sort of was like, I'm just not interested in like seeing anyone else except for you. And one of my friends was like, I don't believe that she's open. Do you know, like, I don't know that she thought that you were going to take her up on it.
She's trying to seem chill.
She might be trying to seem chill. But then other people I have like been with who are legitimately open or legitimately poly or whatever, and I'm like, great. If you tell me the rules, I'm playing by the rules.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Totally.
How do you navigate a first date when you've been friends first?
Okay. Wow. I've done this.
Perfect. Oh my God, friends to lovers.
I would say I've done it poorly.
Okay.
But
So don't do what Catherine did.
Well, you have to like know if the other person is into you. Like it can't be like a question mark. That is tough. Or, and this is bad advice, get really drunk.
No, that's
There you
actually
go.
not bad advice.
Get really drunk
It's
and then
not.
be like, you look like you would be a good kisser.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
actually, I really don't think that's bad advice, because I think I've done that before.
Yeah.
But it wasn't purposeful to like, oh, I'm going to get drunk and then find out if this person is.
Right.
But you find out
No,
a
sometimes
lot.
you're just drunk, and then
Sometimes you just have to be
sometimes you're
drunk,
literally just
and your
drunk,
friend
and
shows
like
up and-
your friend shows
that
up,
happens.
and
That
then
happened
you're
to all
like,
of us.
and you're like, we should definitely kiss.
Yeah.
But then after that, you have to establish like, hey, that was super fun, and I would love to take you on a date,
Yes.
and that's chill enough, I think, that then you can go on the date.
Yeah.
And you just have to know that it will change your friendship if it doesn't go well. Like, that's happened to me, but then you eventually find your equilibrium again, where you're like, okay, so actually we were just supposed to be friends.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be a big deal.
Well, also
I
you
agree.
could say if you're I don't mean to encourage people to drink, but if you
And I do.
on this Christian podcast.
I get fucking blackout drunk.
But I'm like, if you then kiss your friend,
Yeah.
you afterwards could be like, we were drunk, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then I think it could eventually get back to a normal place. But for me, and I will say, I hear people are different when they're drunk. I've heard people's drunk stories. I'm like, I've never felt that way before.
Yeah.
I've never been drunk enough that I would kiss someone I wouldn't regularly kiss. It might just give me the
Correct.
courage to like, be
Yeah.
like, well, I feel a little looser, let's kiss. But I'm not like
Yeah.
kissing people I'm disgusted by.
No.
So I feel like you can
It's
also, you
on
can
the
play it
table.
on the drunk. You
Yeah.
can blame it on the drunk thing, but also like, if you kiss when you're drunk, you want to kiss each other.
Unless you're an alcoholic, I
Right.
would say
We're not speaking to you.
Sometimes you are doing different stuff that you wouldn't normally
yeah,
do.
for sure.
So just be careful out there.
Yeah, so if you're an alcoholic, don't take this advice.
And get STD tested.
Absolutely,
We're really
get
pro
tested.
both
Do
those
both.
things.
Yes, 100%. This person wants to know, what are some refreshing first date ideas? Don't say axe throwing or coffee. And I have two thoughts on this immediately right off the bat.
Yeah.
First of all, just go to coffee.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Like
Yeah.
a coffee date, a
I was going
drink
to say
at a
just
bar.
go to axe throwing.
Sure.
Don't try to
yeah,
reinvent
I
the
love axe
wheel.
throwing. But it's like, those work for a reason.
Yeah,
there's an easy way to get out of them if they're not going well. There's an easy way to stay in them if they are going well. They're in public for safety.
Yeah.
It's not expensive, so you don't have to spend like a ton of money on a stranger you may or may not like. I think there's a lot of ways in which that works.
I think it does work, and people are constantly just trying to be more interesting, but you can be more interesting with a coffee or a drink, like, because you can pick a cute place that's by a nice park.
Yeah.
And then you can go for a stroll by the park, or it can be like near, if you guys both like music and you know that there's like a jazz band playing at a bar down the street. Don't go to the jazz bar first.
Yeah.
Go to a different bar first and then be like, hey, there's actually jazz music playing. Like, I would love to just swing by. And then you beep, 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 beep.
I'm a huge proponent of that. I've said it before about movie dates, but I think, a concert, a jazz band, a reading of some kind of a thing is so nice because you can meet up before.
Yes.
Get a drink, get a coffee, whatever.
And then you don't have to talk.
Go to the thing so you both have like a little time to decompress, to process or whatever. Yeah. And then if like one of you's not into it, you can just be like, bye, see you later. At least you got to do something fun. You got to see a movie, you got to go to a reading, whatever. Or if it's still going really well, you have something to talk about.
Yes.
And you have a touchstone that you've both related on. You can find out how you feel, how they feel, how they see the world through this like piece of art or whatever. I think it's a really nice thing to do, and I think people write it off. But I'll tell you what, if I was going on a first date and someone was like, let's just say I do things a little differently, and our first date, we're going to ride horses, I would be like, I don't want to do that on a first date. Because I don't want to go do something different.
Well, because also I think what you're touching on is that there's intimacy in doing something that's other than what the norm is. They're saying like, hey, I want to share this like cool fun thing like horseback riding. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but that feels more intimate to me.
That's because second or third date material.
Yeah, so don't burn that. But if you want something more interesting, just pick a coffee shop that's near something else, or pick a bar that's near something else. You can spice it up.
Well, also it's kind of like that thing. This is gonna sound really rude. I'm sorry.
And that's okay.
Say
not
it.
To you. Don't.
And that's okay. I'm here for it. It's all right.
I feel like sometimes too, it's like the less interesting you are, not always, but the less interesting you are, the more you're trying to like make up something
the
interesting.
date should be.
It's well. Wait, what'd you say?
The bigger the date is going to be. Like, it's going to be like, we're going to be making bouquets together. And it's like, you just don't have a personality.
Right. Yes. It's kind of like, and I was going to say, which I feel is kind of rude, but I'm sorry. And it's not everyone. But like, when you meet a girl and she's like, well, I have like a baby on my, a weird dead baby on my keychain. And you're like, what? Not a real dead baby. A fake dead baby, to be clear.
Like a baby doll head or something. Really, and you're like, image. Okay.
Yeah, like a baby doll head. So it's not a real baby.
Kendahl, I know exactly what you mean.
Like a really, like they're like, I have like little, like my earrings are like legs of rabbits that are real that I shot myself. You're like, okay, you're different. That's for sure. But I'm kind of wondering if maybe behind that, what is going on? And what I am assuming is just a really normal person.
Yeah.
Because why would you have to do all of these things?
Some first dates that I think are on par with coffee would be like picking out a lamp at an antique shop. Well, because
you think that's a good first date? Because I strongly disagree.
And then if you hate them, kiss them on the mouth.
Yes. It's like you're picking out a lamp at an antique shop. You go
but
on this
it's near a coffee shop. So you get a coffee, you go, there's an antique shop next door. I've been really wanting a lamp.
Sure.
But, okay, I think you can do the lamp after coffee, but I don't think you can do the lamp in place of coffee because, first of all, you're distracted.
Yeah.
That's one thing nice about coffee or a drink. You're locked in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what you want. It's like, I don't want to try to talk to someone where I'm being like, okay, this lamp is 10% off. So 10%. $32.99 is what. It's like, you're not paying attention.
Yeah, so you have to start with the drink. Start with
the movie. You're always pro going to the movie and then going after, but I'm like, to me, unless you're getting there like 30 minutes early, the movie is for after because then you've decided if you're into it or not. And then you're like, oh, should we like hold hands? I don't know. I'm getting the vibe.
Oh, yeah,
versus if you're seeing it before, you're like, I'm not going to like try to hold hands with a person I've literally never spoken to.
I went to see The Substance with somebody that I wanted to kiss on the mouth. Yeah. And then people were like, you have to kiss her before the movie. And I was like, no, I can't, like, because we're just meeting up for the movie. We weren't meeting up before the movie. And then we obviously saw the movie, and that movie is not a sexy movie.
Sure.
And she didn't even walk me to my car. And I immediately got into my car, cried, and then accidentally drove to my ex's house.
Accidentally?
Yeah, because it was like baked into my DNA. Where I I didn't get out.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get out. I wasn't like ding dong. No, I was like driving, and then I accidentally ended, and I was like,
did you cry more?
fuck. Yes,
Double
obviously.
Double cry.
Oh, man.
Yeah, don't go see the substance.
So if it's a horror film, you got to meet up beforehand and know if you're going to vibe.
Well, if it's a horror movie too, it has to be the right kind. I think you can see like
body
a sexy
horror
slasher. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're at a high school and like teens are getting killed by a mystery man.
Absolutely.
I think that's fine.
But like body horror of like things popping out, you're like, that's gross.
Yeah.
That's upsetting.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Pick the right movie.
And
hey, you know what? As a little treat for our Patreon subscribers, I'll make a specialized letterboxed list.
Fun.
And I'll reach out to Catherine to get some of her recommendations about what are good movies you could watch on a date that could help things be fun and interesting to talk about, but also maybe a little sexy.
Yeah, you know what movie I lost my virginity to?
What?
Keep in mind, remember I told you I'm wearing the Argyle socks? We were watching White Chicks.
Okay.
Really sets the tone.
Yeah.
Kendall will not be consulted on the list. Nobody worry. But that's a real list I'll do. And if anyone's interested in like sexy, kind of spooky horror movies,
I like that
maybe you want to get a little freaky after, I'll put a list up on Patreon.
Okay, wait. You've been on a first date with both Jordan and I on your show, Pretty Gay.
Yeah.
What did you think of us on the date? Like, what were your like first impressions on us on a date?
Okay.
Like, if you were on an actual first date, which we were on Pretty Gay.
And we were on a real date, and you were right after each other. Yes. So you did sort of pass each other.
We got a huge fight in the parking lot over it. It was really intense.
So we went on our date first.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we went on our date.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say we were like very off the bat. You felt like open, giggly, like making jokes. And so then I was like, okay, cool, fun. And then you right off the bat were like confident, and it felt like this.
Really?
Yeah, it felt like this confident that was like more of like a quiet confidence. So you both like had a different energy where I was like instantly locked in on like funny, we're gonna laugh, we're gonna chat, and you're gonna tell great stories. And then you also like we funny chatted, but like I was more locked in because your sort of vibe like made me more at ease. And so you were like, yeah, and I'm also here. And I was like, and actually you are. And that's so fun. And you had different takes on things than I thought you would, which
really? Like
yeah,
what?
so I laughed at stuff that I didn't think I would laugh at, you know what I mean? So like you kept talking about how you liked that you were sisters.
Yeah, famously Kendall went on Pretty Gay and was like, Jordan and I are kind of sisters. There's nothing wrong with wanting to fuck your sister.
But that was so funny because it was like that I did like you surprised me with like those sorts of takes, and like your thing on bowls, like you were very like quietly confident and surprising. And then I feel like you right off the bat were like, I was a lesbian when I was 4 years old, and I was like, okay, and I'm in, you know, like, and that's fun too.
That's so funny. No, well, people always say they're like, well, we get asked all the time. Like, I was at the lung doctor the other day. They were like, sisters. And usually are like,
I don't get that at all.
It's funny because then I think Jordan sometimes panics and says, I know we look alike. And I'm like, no, we don't. We don't really look alike.
White. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're just white. So
you don't
I'm
even
like,
both have bangs.
I don't
like,
know.
there's nothing there.
Jordan's in glasses. I mean, it's just completely different. But I was like, sometimes I'm like, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Then people get, I'm so sorry. I asked that. And I'm always like, no, in a way, I do feel like we're sisters. I grew up with sisters. And I know, but I think if I had a husband, I'd be like, he's kind of like my brother, not in a perverted way, because I'm like, yeah, we're not biologically related. I don't know. There's shows. What is it? It's just the like Fosters. They date their adopted siblings. I'm just saying
that's not good. I vote against that.
I'm not pro it, but I'm just saying it's not illegal.
Kendall's just saying there's an ABC Family show where they've done it. She's not for it.
So I'm just saying that sometimes I'm like, yeah, I've had sisters. Every night before bed, I braid Jordan's hair and we chit chat and we giggle, and I'm like, look,
and that's sister.
And then sometimes we do some unsister-like things, and that is hopefully we're not sisters when we're doing that.
Okay,
nothing wrong with that, sister.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Amen to that. I love you.
So that was sort of the vibe, the different, because you guys do bring a different energy. You're both very fun though and giggly. So
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's so nice.
Would you gone on a second date? In real life, like, okay, are these types of people, these energies?
I would go on a second date with both of you.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Because
Wonderful.
both were great first dates. Like, I felt like I could be myself. And that's sort of the litmus test of being like, oh no, I have to like totally dive into their energy, which sometimes you do have to do. But then you know that we're not going to go somewhere.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say I miss first dates specifically because, and I feel like you're probably similar, I did feel like I was good at first dates.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're just like, not the same thing every time, but the same type of thing every time.
Where you're just like, if you have any level of charisma, you probably
first date's
kind
great.
of like first date.
Absolutely.
Like I got my 8 stories that people just get a kick out of.
Absolutely. And you're like, and I can carry this because I like being with me.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think it feels like a performance a little bit.
A little bit.
And
it
so I
is,
think that's a nice buffer in between finding out if you really like this person or not.
Yes.
To be able to, I think, you're joking a little, but I think it's like a very true thing to say, like, I like me and I could just be with me. And I think there is truth to that of being like, great, if we go out on a date and it's not good, like, I had a good time with myself.
Yeah. Plus there's rules and you like rules. I feel like
love
first dates, it's like, I know generally what is allowed and what's not allowed.
Exactly. Although I will say I've been totally wowed on a first date, not in a great way, but in sort of in like a, I didn't think that was allowed on a first date.
Yeah.
Not like physically upsetting things, but like the content of what they were talking about, where like I went on a date with somebody who is a very interesting person. However, I didn't learn that until like a few hours later.
Sure.
Because of course I just stayed and was like, I think we'll get to the bottom of something that like should have been said on a first date, but somehow hasn't come up. But like they immediately went deep into like, how do you like to date? What kind of person are you in a relationship? Like if you come over, are you messy? And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know your middle name.
Yeah.
Like, why do I suddenly know how you're gonna be my wife?
Yeah.
Which was also like said. Like, well, if I was your wife. And I'm like, you don't even know if I want to get married.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
what are we do? I'm on my first drink.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and people have different barometers for what they think is weird. I remember one time someone I dated for a while telling me, like, well into the relationship, like, I thought it was so weird how much you talked about your parents on our first date. But to me, I was like,
I talk about my mom a lot.
Yeah, well, I was like, I don't think I talked about my parents very much.
Yeah.
And I don't think I talked about them in a weird way. I'm just like relatively close to my parents and like them a decent amount.
Yeah.
So to me, it's very normal to be like, oh yes, I like my parents, so here's a story about me and my parents. But to some other people, they're like, whoa, like talking about your family is very
it's like
intimate. So on a first date to bring up family is like totally. So I think it's like the big takeaway from this episode, I feel like, is you're gonna have to just be you on your first date.
Sorry,
because if you're not, they'll find out later on, and
they
you
always
won't,
find
and
out.
you won't work out.
Well, because even with the people who are intense, like that person you're talking about, it's like it's good they ultimately did that on that date because you were able to be like, no.
Well, we did go on a second date.
And you guys are married now. So.
And now we are married. No, I usually give people a second date though, because I'm like, maybe they were nervous. Yeah, maybe they were nervous.
Well, you have a lot of cute clothes, so I feel like also.
And I have a lot of cute clothes.
When you have cute clothes. Well, for me, I was like, I got 2 shirts I like, so I got to be really specific.
That's
with what I'm doing. I feel like you're probably like another night out on the town in my little dress, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Yeah.
Right.
Buy lots of little dresses.
Yeah, buy lots of little dresses, go on lots of dates.
Yeah. Catherine, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This was such a delight.
I know. We have to have you just over to our house to
I would love that. And then we can gossip. Wait, will you guys tell me if I was good on a first date?
Yeah.
Well, yes.
You were good. We had so much fun. My only complaint about your show is that the chairs should be thrown in a pile and set on fire.
Okay, so we got new chairs.
What
was wrong with them?
We got
literally,
new chairs.
Kendall and I both
I
like
my therapist about those chairs.
This
so
was Kendall
bad.
and I. Kendall and I. Keep in mind, okay, so I'm an adult size large. Kendall's like a medium. We're
They're
propped
so
up
bad.
on the edge of these chairs, like standing
they're
because I
awful.
don't fit in the chair.
No, they're
and I was
awful
like,
chairs.
okay, I have to be polite because Catherine, that was like our first time meeting.
We had
so I was
never
like, I
met.
have to be
But
polite. I
Anna
can't say anything about chairs.
Garcia, who's like
Finally,
literally
Anna said it.
like Anna Garcia, who's just like a sprite, you know, was like, these chairs suck.
And that's using your privilege.
I was like, Anna Garcia used her thin privilege in that moment for good instead of evil.
Well,
because when I watched that episode, I wanted to say something about the chairs, and then I was like, all the comments will be,
hated them.
hey, if you don't fit in the chairs, why don't you end your own life? If I had said it, that's what all the comments would have been. So I was like, when Anna said it, I was like, thank you, Anna. I salute you.
We got new chairs, and they are better chairs. And I was like, we have to measure the chairs, you guys.
Yeah.
Because also those chairs are incredibly uncomfortable for me to sit in.
Yes.
And
and they were high up, so it was like you're dangling off the Empire State Building. I'm on the edge, and also my feet aren't touching the ground. I was gonna get.
It's not good.
It's not good. So we got new ones, but they still like stools.
They're smaller.
They're smaller. They're small everywhere. But they're still stools. And stools are like hard to sit in, but we like the bar setup. So we're still, I think season 4, we're still going to like play around with the chairs because, I mean, the ones that we got, they fit. Like, people can actually sit in them, but Anna still is like, I fucking hate these stools. And I was like, okay, you are now the stool master.
And I love that. Bring her in as a consultant.
To sit on all the different...
that everyone will like. That was my only problem with our date. Other than that, I found you incredibly charming. I had a great time. I thought your questions were fun. I mean, I thought we got into some real good, deep topics that ended up getting us on... England Yahoo?
Yeah, somehow.
England Yahoo.
Yeah, somehow like the scissoring was like really controversial.
I got put on a list that was like 10 celebrities who've spoken out about scissoring.
Literally.
And it was like me and Drew Barrymore and like it was crazy.
It was
Wait,
so
what
ridiculous.
was the take again?
And that
just
people
they're
are
real
and people are scissoring.
and people scissor.
Yeah, and that most of the time we're scissoring. Like, or people get confused about like trimming and scissoring, but like people think scissoring is this and it's this.
More like that.
But then what people say, that's trimming. But what's the difference?
No, but okay, so you crotch to crotch is scissoring.
Right.
You're just like this, but your crotches are still touching. Trimming is leg. It's like the lesbian knee.
Completely different.
But you could
really
also,
different.
hey, you know what? There's a world in which somebody's out there doing this, and
Absolutely.
I respect them too. All right, I respect you.
respect
You're
you.
seen, and we respect you. Okay,
respect you.
All
Stop
right,
coming
and we
at
love
gay
you.
people because I'm like, if
Well,
a
it's
straight person
inside
was like,
the
we did
community,
cowgirl,
though.
I wouldn't go. You're sitting on her back?
In the community,
I see what you're saying.
people are saying like there's no scissoring,
true,
and I'm like,
technically.
stop doing that.
Yeah,
Stop it.
that just means you don't want to scissor, and that's your right. Once again, we respect you. That's your right. But
No.
lay off my thing.
Lay off my face.
On our date, though, I was like, I literally said, I was like, yeah, I got nervous. And so when you were like, oh, I'm not mysterious, I was like, I actually think that's not true. Because I do feel like on the date, I was like, if we were on a real first date, I would have been like intimidated, being like, I don't know. I can't tell
on a real
what
first
you...
date, I wouldn't be like that. Because I think that I'm like that because I'm confident. I get to hold little cards. You know, like it's very much like, oh yeah, come like sit with me.
Yeah.
Versus a first date, you're walking into like a neutral space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, okay, Catherine, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me online. I'm at Catherine_McCaff. Or if you want to subscribe to the Patreon, that's going to be pretty gay. Patreon.com.
Incredible. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening, subscribing to the Patreon, watching us on YouTube, anything. It all helps. As always, this is an independently made and produced podcast, so we appreciate your support more than you could ever imagine.
Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much, Catherine, for being here.
Thank you. Can I just say that I have a live show?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, I have a live show in Los Angeles on June 22nd at Dynasty Typewriter, and I keep forgetting to plug it.
You guys, that is
Please.
we love Catherine. We love Dynasty Typewriter, so go out to that.
Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Bye.